Previously I did a video going over the endgame knight, and a lot of you seems to really enjoy it and wanted me to use another class. But of course I just picked up a class that I could do at the moment, which was a physical damage class, and a class that I was just interested in using, which ended up being the Revenant. Revenant is a heavily underrated class that players just tend to ignore it because it's not in the quote-unquote meta class. Seriously, seeing classes like this just being ignored, it just sucks because it's not the quote-unquote best or most efficient. There are 18 classes in the game, swapping gems is free, just experiment. That's just why I use the knight. I don't use it because it's meta, I just use it because I like it. Anyways, I ended up using this Revenant live and I was just blown back on how effective this class can be. So blown back that I even forgot to change my gear. Using Scorpius. Oh my god, all this time I've been using C4. And once I actually changed into Mystic Gear, it became even more effective. It was kind of crazy. Also, a little side note, I actually ended up using my knife finally with the Permanent Torch because obviously I do have Nala and I don't need to grind out the whole event. Combine that with maxed out gems, I can actually just do this. And yeah. Anyway, so I ended up just using the Revenant for both long shade with my Knight's gem with Vampirian Vanquisher and max movement speed equipment, and I also ended up just soloing the Kraken Delves with Berserk Battler and full damage equipment. And here's what I found out. First, let's start talking about the Delves, and unfortunately the Revenant has a really big problems for the high Delves. It does have insanely high block stats, so it does have good survivability, decently good burst damage, so it can kill enemies relatively quickly, pretty good AoE, which makes it decent at clearing rooms, and overall it does have some good tools to make the character effective. However, the Revenant Spirit Spears and Spirit Storm cost HP to cast, and if you're in a depth with high terror modifiers, which makes it so that player takes more damage, this will include the Revenant's abilities, and he essentially just kills all of your blocks and survivability like Noah's business. It's pretty horrible, and considering the high terror is very common in the higher delves, this is going to be a big problem. I would not recommend using the Revenant for the higher delves, especially if there's a terror modifier. Now, on long shade is a different story. Revenant is great as a long shade class. It is obviously not the best, but it's definitely a good all-around class, that it is very easy to use and you can easily just reach to its fullest potential. I will mention this every single time. One of a dungeon type class is high damage, instant cast ability with fast animations and little to no cooldown, so you can do quick bursts in every single dungeon with very little downtime. Hence why basic attacks are going to be so important for dungeons. And not only Revenant has a pretty decent basic attack, it also has some pretty good ability as well. But first, the basic attack. It has a 4.2 times damage multiplier, so 4.2 times your coefficient, which is high. It also applies a debuff that triggers whenever you do hit an enemy. This actually got buffed recently in this latest update, which it used to be 5% more damage, now is 15% more damage when you do hit an enemy with the basic attack. And since long shade is all about burst damage, not so much about one-shotting, that little bit of extra damage can mean you hitting an enemy one less time to kill, which is very important, especially on a character like this that does have somewhat slow animation speed. Speaking of slow animation speed, the basic attack is quite slow at a 1.25 base attacks per second, which is tied for the second slowest animation speed in the game. The slowest are going to be the 1 attacks per second, which is going to be Solarian, Pirate Captain, and Shadowhunter with no class gem, and 1.25 is just slightly above that. In fact, this is the same speed as the Fate Trickster and Boomeranger, but the Boomeranger has the extra hit whenever you do the last hit on the combo. Boomeranger's base animation speed is 1.25. That's the thing that scales up, just similar to Faye, similar to Rev. Regardless of what it is, this basic attack is slow. 3.75 attacks per second and maximum is not that good. Many characters can attack 4 to 4.5 attacks per second, and characters that can attack quickly like Knight, Neon Ninja, Chloromancer can attack over 6 attacks per second. This being less than 4 is a big difference. It also has a very short range basic attack with 4 blocks, tied for the second shortest range basic attack in the game. The only 2 characters that have shorter range at 3 blocks are the Vanguardian in melee mode and the Knight. This being 4 blocks is not that much different. And the crowd control is alright. It mainly hits around the right side because it is a stabbing animation and the spear is on the right. So in other words, this is a short range, slow attacking, high damage basic attack with not so great AoE, which it doesn't feel like it is the best basic attack itself. However, it does have 2 abilities that work with this basic attack. First, Spirit Spears, and even more so if you combine it with the hidden effect Speed Spears. Spirit Spear is a toggle ability, and when it activates you will have a lot of spear in front of you that will deal constant damage, and you can attack with your regular ability abilities while this ability is active. The damage is around 2.15 times damage. I believe it's 2.15, 2.5. Normally it's going to hit around 2 to 3 attacks per second in a cone in front of the Revenant. And what I mean normally is that Spirit Spear has a very hidden quirk that I just don't know how to even explain it. But whenever you run into enemy, for some reason the game will just reset the tech damage. So in other words, you can just hit multiple times in like an instant whenever you run into enemy with Spirit Spears, and it allows you to transform this ability from an okay ability for long shade to one of the best momentum building in the entirety of the game. It's insane how much this little hidden quirk actually just affects the Revenant Spirit Spear, especially with speed spears, since it allows you to kill all random enemies if you do have martial active. This is really good for building a lot of speed. Speaking of speed spear, this should be a must. If you're planning of using the Revenant, use speed spears. It's going to be much better with the Revenant because Spirit Spears normally will reduce your movement speed by 62%. That is a lot of movement speed that you will be losing if you don't have speed spears active. Speed spears will remove all of that penalty and you will be running at normal speed. One last thing that I also did notice when I was just using Spirit Spear is that you cannot use your mount whenever you have the Spirit Spears active. Not in normal ways. You can technically do it if you go into the mount and activate Spirit Spears at the same time, then you can just do that, but there's no point in doing it outside of just messing around. So if you want Volatile Bounder, Cosmic Primal Dragon, then you need to toggle off Spirit Spears, then go into the mount and then activate Spirit Spear once more. It can be quite annoying, but it's not that big of a deal and something that I personally got used to it in less than an hour. And that was the first ability. The second ability is going to be Spirit Storm, the ultimate ability. This also got a buff in the most recent update, reducing the cooldown from 40 seconds to 30 seconds. This is actually pretty good on speed farming because the ability already is pretty good, but a shorter cooldown, it means that you can just use it more frequently to help out in terms of burst damage and AoE. Spirit Storm, pretty simple ability. You activate it and you create a cyclone-like effect that pulls all enemies around you in a 3 to 3.5 block radius, and it does around 1.7 times damage, like 3 to 4 times per second. It spawns little orbs that do a bonus 2 times damage per orb, and just like Spirit Spear, you can just use any other abilities including Spirit Spears itself. So it's just going to be extra damage for the Revenant just activating this. It's a very straightforward ability. If you're going up against a boss, then you can just activate it and it's going to help you out in doing quick burst damage. It also lasts for 5 seconds, so you more than likely are going to delete everything that you're targeting with using this ability. Of course, that isn't just a major boss like Leviathans or Delve bosses. Simply put, this is an oh shit, there's an enemy that I don't like. You know, there's no other way for me to describe it. Normally, I would just recommend you using this against a 3-star boss, but now with the shorter cooldown, you'll be surprised on how often this ability you're going to have it active and available at all times. So use it as often as possible to delete everything, especially against bosses. And those are the two abilities that are going to be very important. Combine those two with the basic attack and you have the Revenant. Speed Spear, just have it active as much as possible. Always remember that enemies are just grass and you're a lawnmower, so go crazy. Use your ultimate ability to complete dungeon objectives much faster, and of course never forget to use your basic attack for the debuff and of course extra damage. Revenant doesn't really have high top movement speed because it doesn't have any movement speed buff, but it's definitely consistent in both kill time and maintaining movement speed buff. Highly recommend you to give this class a shot. Who knows, you might be missing out on one of your potential favorite classes. Like always, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Any hidden gems that you would like to share, maybe something that I don't know, sound there in the comment section down below. Leave a like, sub, do all of that stuff that made the content creator happy but no one ever does it. That's going to be everything for me. Once again, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time. Take care, keep on hunting, and hope to see you soon with another class.